Hello, everyone. We are trying a different recording setup. Hopefully, it works better because the microphone in the classroom, it doesn't work at all. Well, it does work, but works very poorly. So, I have purchased a microphone and I'm recording in my office. Now, this lecture is about flags, as it says right there. So, flags have been with us for a long time. Usually we think of them as banners. Banners and flags are effectively the same thing. And they've been with us for hundreds of years, and banners or standards have been with us for thousands of years. They were created in order for us to recognize different groups or ships, as it were, from a distance, to know who was on what team, to also to communicate over long distances. When you're outside of vocal range, outside of yelling range, then how can you talk to each other? Well, you use flags to be able to send messages over long distances, over kilometers of distance. Because we think how far our voice carries. Our voice carries, even if you yell as loud as you can. One person, how far does it go? 50 meters? 100 meters? Not very far. But if you have not a telescope, some measure of magnification, then you can see flag messages from kilometers and kilometers, 10, 16, 20 kilometers away, if it's a good weather, clear weather. So flags are a very excellent way of communicating before we had radio or light Morse code. So in the TED Talk we saw last week, this radio host, he discussed about flags. And we heard the voice of Ted Kane, who wrote a short pamphlet on flags. And in it, he has 5 rules for flag design. What makes a good flag? 1, keep it simple. The flag should be so simple that a young child, hopefully, can draw it from memory. Most national flags follow this rule quite well. We see here, easy peasy. Even if they get confused on, what the trigrams are supposed to look like, specifically which goes where, Korea's flag is distinctive and easy to remember. Canada, got a big old maple leaf there. Just put your hand down, you can draw it. Russia, white, blue, red. In France, blue, white, red vertically, the tree color. So most flags are quite easy this way. Others are a bit harder. Doesn't mean they're bad, just a bit harder. Brazil has the constellations, the stars in there. That's a bit harder. This is the old South African flag. Long before you were born, this is what they used, back when they had a different government. So they have flags on their flags. It's a bit silly. This is Mexico's flag. Well, starts easy, green, white, and red. But in the middle, there's an eagle standing on a cactus eating a steak. It's a little complicated, but it is important, so they put it on there. Lastly, we have Turkmenistan. We have the moon and the stars, but then we have patterns here that are, can you remember which goes where and how it goes? I can't, but I'm old. Rule number 2, use meaningful symbolism. It has to have a connection to your group, your nation, your state, your city, your region, your soccer team, anything. There has to have meaning. This is really easy with national flags, but it gets more mushy or fluffy, as it were, with the smaller units. Now again, Korea, easy peasy. We've got the white. The white means something, innocence, purity, and blue and the red. Now, these are opposites, and they're constructed in the yin-yang. That's what we call it. We use the Chinese-based word for positive and negative. There's always a 2. There's always day and night, hot and cold, the opposites. And we have the 4 trigrams that represent different elements. And they have different meanings, but the 4 elements of the earth, the 4 seasons, it's everything has meaning in connection with the Korean identity, which is important because this is the Korean flag. We go back to Mexico. The green, the white, and the red, they all have specific meanings. Red means the blood of the patriots and people who died for Mexico's independence and continued independence, the purity of the people, and green, I believe, is loyalty. Now, that eagle standing on a cactus eating a snake, this is the creation myth of the Aztec people. The Aztecs, who you might know of, I don't know if you learned about them in school or not, but the Aztecs were a native empire, and their capital, Tenochtitlan, is where Mexico City is now. So their old capital is the now capital of Mexico. They built pyramids, if you saw pictures of them. And they were wandering people. They would walk around all over North America, and they had a story where the place where they would stop moving, they would stop and build their home, would be a place where they found an eagle standing on top of a cactus eating a snake. And they found that in a swamp with lots of water and not a good place to live. But that's where they found it, and that's where they built their city, Tenochtitlan. And they made that swamp into an amazing place. So it's it is part of the birth of the Mexican identity, that symbolism. So again, meaningful. Here's my flag, United States, red, white, blue. Red, white, blue over here as well. So we see similarities, white, red, blue, red, white, blue. The stripes, alternating red and white stripes, and there's 13 of them for the 13 original states. We see the blue field on the upper left corner, and there are 50 stars, each star representing each state of the Union, the United States. So as they started with 13, so up here they had 13 stars. As they got more and more states, they put more and more stars up there. So the flag has changed quite a bit. This flag, you might be too young for, but this is the old flag of Libya. It's green. It looks like they, got their bed sheet out, and they got it, and they just flew that, which is fine. Not saying it's bad. It is bad, but it's very, very simple. What does it mean? There is meaning, but it's not significant or identifiable. Do you know what flag this is? This is the flag of Seoul City. I had to look it up. It was a bit hard to find, but you can. It's something, isn't it? Are these symbols meaningful? Possibly. I think, if I had to guess, this is the Han River. This is one of the mountains, and this is a red dot. I don't know what that means, though. This flag is from where I went to university in the state of Idaho. This has a lot of things on it. It has the seal of Idaho on their flag, which breaks another rule. But a lot of these symbols don't hold particular meaning. They're just kind of there because that's what you're supposed to have. They have a guy who's a miner, which is important because Idaho did have lots of mines for coal and iron and gems, sapphire and rubies, things like that. And there's a big elk, which they do have lots of. But that lady, she's something else. So rule number 2, use meaningful symbolism. Meaningful, that's the important part. Okay. Now, rule number 3, use 2 to 3 basic colors. Now, we can see some examples here. We see, again, this Korean national flag. Now, it says 2 to 3. Red, blue, black, white. That's 4, but that's okay. But the basic flag colors, red, blue, green, black, yellow, white. Most flags are that colors because they are easy to see from a distance. We're not able to examine flags up close. We always see them up on flagpoles or from far away. So we see here the colors for the state of Maryland in America. It's a bit busy, but it follows the color scheme quite well. Finland, blue and white. Identifiable. Green, they've got it for Libya, the old one, but it's still a bit much. But here, this is one of the old flags of China in the 20th century. They've got a lot of colors together, and it doesn't look pretty. I'm not quite sure, but it's also a bit difficult to see. This flag is the flag for the Organization of American States. Basically, it's a multinational organization for the countries of the American states, all the countries in the Western Hemisphere, to get together and talk. So they put all their flags on it, and I can't tell. I can see America. There's America there, but I can't see anything else. It's quite hard to read, to see, to look at. So this is an example of a overly busy, too colorful flag. Rule number 4, no lettering, no seals. Lettering being obviously words. There are exceptions, but we'll talk about this, especially for Western style alphabet, Latin or Cyrillic. Then seals are usually what we put they're kinds of stamps. We put them on paper, on business cards. They don't look pretty on flags. My home state, Washington, they say the seal of the state of Washington, 1889. That's it. So great seal of the state of Idaho. State of Idaho. So they say state of Idaho 2 times right next to each other. And it makes it more difficult to see what's inside. Now, this flag, the California state flag, this one we considered an exception because this has meaningful impact in that California Republic, California was its own country for about 6 days, and they used this flag. And so it was the Republic of California for a short time. So even though the rule number 4 says no lettering, but rule number 2 says it should be meaningful. So the rules can contradict each other, that can be okay. Well, here's 2 Korean examples. We have Jeollabuk-do and Jeju. And they use a lot of words. So Jeollabuk-do, they have their symbol here. Otherwise, the whole rest of the flag is just words, which is, again, shows that they just brought their logo on and put it on a flag. Jeju, 2 kinds of lettering in different kinds of font. And it doesn't look that pretty when you put it on a flag. And rules 5, be distinctive or be related. This has to do with cultural and history and politics. This is difficult because humans love stars and moons and sun and things like that. So flags and symbols are often similar. But if you have a common bond or similarity in culture, then it's really okay to have similarities, but you should be distinctive and identifiable. Here's an example. Here's the USA flag here, which we talked about before. This is for the African country of Liberia. Notice that they have fewer stripes and only one big star in their upper left corner. Liberia was a country that was made not from and by freed slaves from America. So they were slaves who they were taken from Africa, or they were children from people from Africa, taken to America, and they're freed, and they're going back to Africa to their own country called Liberia, which means free place. So this is representing their connection with America. Here, we have the flag of Turkey. Here we have the flag of Pakistan. Both are Muslim countries. And so they have the crescent and star of Islam. Here we have flag of the United Kingdom, of England, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. 3 flags put together. And here's Australia, showing their heritage connection and the Southern Cross constellation. This flag is Denmark. This is Norway. Both Nordic countries, both share very close linguistic connections. Languages are very similar, and Denmark used to own Norway as well. So flags should be distinctive, or be related. So they need to be separate or close together. You need one or the other. Here's an example. These are 3 different country flags. This one I couldn't get a good picture of, but you've definitely heard of 2 of these countries, maybe all 3. This is the flag of the city-state of Monaco in Europe. Red on top of white, horizontal. This is the country of Poland, white on top of red. This is the country of Indonesia, red on top of white. All very, very similar, and they have no connection to each other whatsoever. They're very different. Each one is very distinct and different from the other. But their flags are very, very similar. They need to talk to each other and figure something out. So, how does Korea fare? Korea's national flag is great. Everyone loves it. Most everyone. But Korea's constituent parts, the provinces and cities of Korea, I think they violate a lot of these rules. We see Gyeongsang-namdo, we see Gyeongsang-bukdo. I don't know what that logo is. I kind of see what their logo is. I think these are hills and the sunlight coming up. Is this a river? The wind? Jeollanam-do and Jeollabuk-do we saw. Don't know what Jeollabuk-do is. That a kite? Don't know. Water and tree and the sun, or plant in the sun. Okay. Sejong City, they just got their logo, and they have part of the architecture we found in the old Chosun buildings, but that's okay. Seoul City, I think, with the river and the mountain and the sun, I think. Chungcheongnam-do, Chungcheongbuk-do. Gangwon-do, there's this one. Gyeonggi-do, I think, is the worst because they've got lettering. They've got lettering of different languages, and they've got a horrible software company logo. I've always hated Gyeonggi-do's logo. We see Ulsan City, which I think is supposed to be a mountain in the sun. This is Busan, which is got, I think, a seagull and the ocean. Jeju-do, which we talked about before. And we see, if the indicator goes away, there's Daejeon. I don't know what that's supposed to be. Gwangju, it looks like a happy person. Incheon, that's something. And Daegu, which looks like Hyundai's old logo of the mountains, but mountains are fine. So, where are you from? You're from one of these places. Do you like your provinces or city's flag? You could, but we'll talk about that. Now, Seoul had a different flag from 1946 to 1996. They changed it. This is the new flag, what they have now. This is the old flag. And I think it looks better, but apparently it's old-fashioned. We have the city wall and the roads, and there are 7 points here on this septagon. And that's supposed to represent 7 hills, or rather the 7 mountains of Seoul, the Namsan and Gwanaksan and so on. And so there's supposed to be meaning there. So we have another small project to take care of. This is just me telling you what you're going to do. There'll be an official announcement on the e-class as well. So in the TED Talk, the speaker brings up the idea that any flag should be able to look good on a 1-inch by 1.5-inch piece of paper. That's 2.5 centimeters by about 3.8. So 2.5 by 4, effectively. So you're going to design a new flag for your local area. It can be your city, province, or neighborhood district. And you're going to write an explanation of your design. What is the meaning of the colors? What's the meaning of the symbols you used? The design needs to be on the 2.5 by 3.5 3.8 centimeter. It's a small 2.5 centimeter by 4 centimeters, fine, but 3.8 is better piece of paper. Your art skills are not the most important thing. They are not paramount for this project. Your explanation is. Drawing on a small piece of paper is difficult. That's fine. I appreciate that. It's not important that your flag be the most beautiful artistically. What I want us to practice is your explanation of the parts, the elements of your flag, and how it's meaningful and why it looks good.